Welcome back, and today we're going to be taking a look at the IIR 81C, but with the DB605. And if you are familiar with this engine, then you might know where you will find it in. First, let's take a look at this one. It's honestly a mediocre plane at best. It has decent guns, it has good flaps, but overall the plane doesn't handle all that well, and other than the camo, it's incredibly mid. And it's a little bit of a shame, because if this thing had a little bit more engine power, it might actually be half decent. And that's what the DB605 actually fixes, because if you look at this engine, we are looking at 959 horsepower. This one has a whopping 1422 on web. Even if you can't web, you are looking at a good 300 extra horsepower, which is of course incredibly massive. Now, the overheating and such, we'll have to see how bad it is, but the main thing that you really want to not forget is by disqualification for the price alone. Let's get some gameplay and see what this thing can do. It's not a great airframe anyway. The engine definitely makes this thing most likely pretty flyable, but I'm already pretty reserved because we're looking at orange engine temps before we even reach 2000 meters, and that is with the airspan. So we are looking potentially at a plane that might cook itself, but we'll see how this thing actually handles. Now, there are low clouds and this is a pretty small map, so we're probably going to be fighting in these clouds, which is a little bit of a shame. With a little bit of luck, they're all going to stay below the clouds as they engage the people that are also below the clouds, so that they can actually see. And if they decide to do that, then well, I'm going to have to jump on them pretty easily. Now, we have some guns here. We have two 7.92s and we have two 20mm. You can see those by the long ass barrels sticking out of the wings. The guns are good. They are MG151s. We'll just have to see how it behaves. So we're just climbing straight in. This is definitely the overheat that you expect over 109. Yeah, we are now at 3 kilometers and they start to go red. So we might need to lay off the web for a little bit and just kind of cut our losses. Yes, it's not ideal in terms of climb rate, but I do want to keep this engine somewhat cool so I can keep webbing later on. Because a plane like this is just really dependent on the amount of power that it has available to it. And if you are not familiar with how temperatures work, the longer you stay in yellow, orange or red, the lower the engine temp will be before it starts overheating. So later on, even though right now it starts going red at 112 degrees, later on it might start going red at 108 degrees, and this will keep ticking down until you can basically not even go on 100% throttle anymore. So you need to be wary of that for the late game. And for now, I feel like we are in a pretty decent position, other than that BF-109 that's now riding my ass. Because this guy also definitely knows we are here, and I can't really go head on with him. It is a BF-109E, so I'm just going to be rolling out of the way. And he didn't even see us, so I decided, or I wasted a pretty easy angle. Now this BF-109 is simply going to run after me. So what do? Well, we're just going to ignore him. So we're just gonna drop down here and see if we can clean up the people on the deck. And if he decides to come down for us, then well, he will ruin his own game. Now I am gonna go for the B239 first here. He is going to be very annoying if he ends up above me. So for the time being, I'm just gonna see if I can take him apart before I go to someone else. He's already turning pretty steeply. He's dead. BF-109 is gonna be turning towards the P-39, so I'm going to be taking a piece of him as well if I can. But he is disengaging and he is flying somewhere else. P-39 is flying the opposite direction. R6 is not exactly clear. He's breaking off, that's good for us. So we are going to be not flying into the ground, because this thing does compress a decent amount. So we peel off for the time being. We put all of our speed back into altitude. There goes the BF-109. And we are going to be turning around for the Hurricane and the Corsair. BF-109 still above me. MS-410 coming in. I'm actually going to disengage and see if I can take him down real quick. Seems like I can. BF-109 behind. Is he going for me though? Yes, he is. So we are just going to be turning underneath him. He peels off. That is good for us. And then we go up towards the Corsair first, potentially. I was maybe going to keep turning for the 190 depending on what he was going to do. But he is flying the opposite direction and we can actually catch this guy for the time being. So we are just going to be reeling him in. There is the Severe. And there is the Focke-Wulf 190. There's an AA field over there, so I'm just going to be ignoring them. 190 is 100% going to come head on with me. Unless he doesn't see me because he's going for someone else. I'm just going to hold my fire for a little bit and then take him down whenever we merge. Now, he is going pretty slow, so I'm just going to drop the flap for a bit here and see if I can catch him napping, which we can. There goes his wing. Lay off the web, go into a little bit of a shallow climb here. Because I don't need to climb fast right now. I need to make sure that I build some energy while not overheating my engine. And the Fokker behind me isn't exactly the most dangerous plane. So I'm just going to be... Well, I'm going to be webbing for a little bit here. I want a little bit of extra elt, but the Fokker isn't really a threat. The FU is already flying towards him, so I might try to go for the G4M1 instead. Because the Fokker is probably going to die here. Unless that FU gets clapped in the head on, because he is going mighty slow. There he goes. Now this guy doesn't have the energy to really come up for me. So I am going to keep going straight. I'm going to take the G4M on the way towards the energy trap on the Fokker. Let's see if he doesn't get too close. He does not. Just a bunch of hits. That is unfortunate. And then we simply just go straight up and make him fall out of the air. He does not have the energy for this kind of maneuver. It is a shame that the G4M1 didn't die, but it's okay. That's not something that should bite me in the ass later on. So this guy is flying pretty predictably and we just take his wing off. Let's cool the engine down a little bit. Just go into a bit of a shallow climb here. Back to 100%. I don't want to web just yet. I just want that Hurricane to get out of the AA bubble. Preferably before the BF-109 shows up. Now I have the energy here. I have the position. But I do not have the turn rate. So I just want to get as much altitude as possible. But I also want to make sure that I'm fast enough to actually dodge his gun. So when he reaches about 2.5, I'm going to shallowly dive into him. Pick up a bit of speed. And then actually have the ability to maneuver while he pitches up for us. So let's see if he wants to do it. It is a Hurricane. So the chances of him not doing this are pretty low. Low BR plane. Good guns. Low stall speed. So the chances of finding a low level player that pitches straight up for you is pretty high. And that's exactly what he does. Good night. There goes the Hurricane. Let's switch on over to the BF-109. He doesn't necessarily want to go for us. I'm not sure if that's an E or an F, but we will see when he finally decides to not camp his base. Well, he's not camping his base just yet, but I'm expecting him to. He's going very slow. He's kind of stall climbing, so I'm gonna actually keep it straight. I want to keep my speed a little bit higher. So I have the ability to either chase him back to the runway or to just go straight vertical when he decides to turn in. And it is a BF-109E, so we are just going to open up the gap a little bit, go up over his nose. He instantly drops his nose to get away from me. So I'm going to open up the gap behind him a little bit. That's why you saw me do that weird turn. And then we try to shit in his mouth when he decides to go downwards. Just a bunch of hits, and this is bad because this thing compresses like an absolute bitch. Luckily he has no idea where he wants to fly towards, so I'm just gonna sit behind him and go straight vertical. Open up the loop a little bit here. He doesn't have the energy to keep coming up, so I can just kind of play with him. And at this point he's way too slow, and there goes his wing. Incredibly bad engagement on my part. I forgot how badly this thing compresses. But as I can just show you, when you fly at this kind of battle rating, it doesn't really matter, because the people that you are fighting, well, they don't know how to capitalize on your mistakes. And this is why there are so many 3.0, 2.7 and anything that's below it planes that will just have an absolute field day, and it's not necessarily because the plane is that great. It's not because the plane is carrying you, it's because the people that you are fighting simply have no clue on what direction to fly towards. Now this G4M1 is another prime suspect of someone that doesn't really know what they're doing. There's nothing wrong with it, but he's going way too slow, and it gives me the ability to kind of close the gap really easily and come in with a very high closure speed, which is going to make it difficult for him to actually shoot me down, and it's going to be a lot easier for me because aiming at a bomber that's going 2 kilometers an hour isn't particularly difficult. And there is the first game that I did in the IAR 81C DB605, and we get 8 kills. And it really is just that. We are playing a low battle rating plane with decent amount of power, which is nice because power is everything at lower battle ratings, and having a better engine just makes the plane a lot more enjoyable to play. There's a lot less downtime between engagements, and it just makes it so that you can dictate where to go just a little bit better. Now let's queue up for game number 2 after I get my breakfast in. So we are just going to be climbing straight in. We have a CW21, we have a P63 on the deck, A6M2 and an A20 that I'm not necessarily worried about. Key 43 duo on the horizon as well. Are they in a squad? It looks like they are, and that is going to be a pretty annoying matchup because the Key 43 is incredibly nimble and annoying to hit. So I do want to just third party those guys, but we also have 3 P38s that are climbing straight for us. So I do want to break off. I hope that they have the same clouds as I do, because then I might be able to sneak past unnoticed. I don't really have anyone at high alt. One of the P38s looks to be already going for me. I'm not entirely sure. And here we have the P1 Y1. So I am going to try to pitch up for him and see if I can swipe him out of the air as we just climb away from the P38s. Now, I'm going to have to hit this without any sound. I'm not quite able to get my guns on target because he actually dives last second. But here comes the P38. 2 of them actually. So let's get a little bit of separation. I'm gonna go for this little hole in the clouds and then see if this P38 wants to just fully commit, and if he does, then I'm going to have a little bit of a dogfight. So I do want to make him a little bit faster. He has a pretty weak airframe. He compresses pretty badly, so we go up over his nose. We use his twin boom against him. We go vertical and we try to sit above him, but he instantly notices that he is going to be losing this dogfight and tries to disengage. So we just hold the trigger down and we get a severe damage. That doesn't actually put him out of commission in the slightest. You can see that he is completely fine, but the twin boom planes often give you a severe even though you don't actually do any meaningful damage. And if you don't see anything on the bottom right in the white-ish text, you can assume that he is completely fine. But the good news is that if he does die to whatever thing that shoots him or crashes or whatever, I am going to be getting the kill. So that is optimal for us. But I don't really want to go down there as there are a lot of people in the clouds over here. Our team is looking pretty stable, same as theirs. CW21 on the deck, but he is kind of getting eaten up by multiple people from different directions. So I think he is going to be dead pretty soon. So for now, I'm just going to be cruising in without any web towards the VG33. Except he does a little bit of a flat turn there. He's burning a lot of energy, so he instantly puts himself, well, out of the danger window, let's call it that. So instead, I'm going to be engaging the P40. Now the P40 isn't necessarily a dangerous plane, especially when he flies straight at you and just gets absolutely blasted by the guy that he didn't see. Now the P38 is diving back to the airfield. I'm not entirely sure if it is because of the damage or if he just wants to go RTB because, well, he thinks he needs to. Maybe he wants to camp the airfield or whatever, I'm not entirely sure. VG33 still below us. P38 is going to be trying to pitch up here, so we are just going to break off in a different direction. Use a little bit of the flaps. I'm going to be ignoring the P38 as he stalls himself out for my teammate. And then we switch on over to the VG33 and get kill number 2 in pretty rapid succession. So we are just gonna put it into Shadow Climb here. P38 on the right is coming towards us a little bit, but he is still fighting the LE5. So I am actually going to fly towards him and see if I can bully him for the time being. P38s are kind of annoying in the head-on, but other than that, they don't have the energy to really hang with us. We do want to be careful because they do turn well with the flaps, but I do think that in the long run, it doesn't really stand much of a chance if I play it properly. And if he plays it like that, then well, it's never going to win, regardless of the plane he's in. Kill number 3, DB3 on the deck. I'm going to be ignoring him for the time being. I'm just going to be climbing shallowly towards their airfield and see if I can pick off some guys that are actually going to be rearming, repairing, or whatever you have. I think other than that guy, 6 kilometers away. It's an A6M2. That is something that I don't really want to deal with, but I do think that if I can take down this P63 over here, who is very likely to try and pitch up for us, that the A6M2 shouldn't be all too much of an issue. So I am gonna be diving after him here. He's going pretty slow. He's dropping his bombs. I do not want to compress. So I'm just gonna be holding trigger down to shit in his mouth. And then we merge with the A6M2 as we go 600 kilometers an hour. So we go up over his nose. And then we just go straight vertical, as he does not have the energy to hang with this in the slightest. He's going to stall himself out. He is shooting at my teammate, so I decide to break off to see if I can pitch up into this shot. It's going to be a little bit tight, but it's okay because he's way too slow. We get kill number 5, and then the P1Y1 flies directly back, just as predicted, towards the airfield. And that is why I almost dove on the P1Y1. So I don't think I'll be able to actually pounce on him. There's a chance that he doesn't see that I'm here, but I kind of doubt it. Let's hope that he turns around again. Let's hope that he thinks about putting distance between us instead of using the airfield. That is a common mistake. But the chances are that the second I get close to him, he is just going to dive towards the airfield. And probably get... Yep, there he goes. Not much I can do here. I need him to get a little bit of separation. I'm somewhat safe above the airfield here because I'm at almost 4 kilometers. So I'm just waiting for him to get a little bit of separation. But I think he's just gonna be circling very closely directly over the airfield. And there is just really nothing I can do here. The hit scan AA and props is brutal. It's basically unplayable to try and go in there. But right now he's going super slow and he's not that low. So I might just try to pick him off right here. And I think that it should be completely fine. So I'm just going to start shooting at long range. He's crit, he explodes. And that is going to be the game. As I'm overspeeding completely. And I'm trying not to get absolutely hammered by the AA. But my pilot is looking mighty red. Luckily, I think we are going to be completely fine. And we are. That is game number 2. 6 kills yet again. That is 14 in 2 matches. And that is just the reality of playing it.